So if you've got this idea of the Cybersecurity Awareness Month, are we going to take all our employees off to cybersecurity camp for the month of October? No, right? The show the productivity show has to go
I've
on.
seen some organizations that almost do. I mean, where like 5 days a week, every single week during the month of October, where they've got different lunch and learns that they're doing and activities planned. But it's the same five people that show up to these things every single day, and a majority of the company still doesn't show up because I've never seen anyone do it daily and make it mandatory.
Hmm. No, and really what we have to do is like focus the successful approaches basically is focus on, make a list of priorities, and the priorities may be different for different groups of employees. Because if you work in finance, there may be different risks from if you work in sales and marketing or something like that. But basically then work down the list of priorities. But as the BMAP model says, it takes about a 28-day cycle is the minimum to actually establish, a new behavior, to get it embedded, right? So we need to do this. We can do only one or two at a time. And once they are embedded and have become automatic, then they're not really demanding the employee's time, time and attention anymore. You execute them automatically, then you go on to the next one and the next one. So that basically means you have, it's a continuous effort, and staging it is the only way of really reliably embedding those secure behaviors in your staff.
So when you say embedding secure behaviors, it just reminds me of something that I've focused on quite a bit. It's what I call human virus definitions, and I think we're basically saying the same thing, but it's I think about the guy that is, it's a Friday afternoon. He's on his way home from work. He stops by the store. He's in the grocery line, waiting to check out, and he's checking his email right then. He may normally be secure, but at that moment, he's not thinking about security. And so he's more prone to click on a fish. And the bad guys know this. That's why they fish you on the weekends, right before holidays, things like this. And so I think about it because when it's a subconscious reaction, it doesn't matter where they are, how many distractions, what's going on around them. The subconscious is more reliable, predictable. Every single time it'll say, whoa, something's going on. And the people will move on. And so that to me is where it's things like trust your gut, watch out for urgency, watch out for authority and how it's used against you. And these core principles to me that I think we have to get through. And the second part, I'm curious what you think about it, is I believe that should be the goal of running phishing simulations, where if they click, they immediately get that training, that just in time training. They know they made a mistake and they're learning those core values. Because one of the things that I found running, I don't know, it's millions of phishing simulations, is that there are, or once somebody goes through a specific type and they fall for it, they're less likely to fall for that same type of fish again in the future if they've gotten that just in time training. But like by something like 70% less likely. So what do you think about that? And what's your approach to it?
I actually disagree, because basically, if I zoom out and I see a situation where employees, during their normal working time, when they're focused on their primary task, basically get kind of ambushed by these simulated phishing mails. And we just know that it has, from empirical studies, that it doesn't necessarily mean, so sort of a lot of people actually just won't engage with the material at that point in time because the primary task is more important and it needs to get done. If you basically have something to get to a client, you have a deadline to meet or so on, you're not really going to engage with the material. Then, of course, is one of the discussions we could have is how good is the training material you're given, right? I mean, there's huge differences in quality. Just some of them don't really give people, they just basically put generalities, but don't give people actionable advice, right? If you give
Agreed.
actionable advice and you explain exactly what the problem is with that particular email, and from, you show from the specific thing, and then do the transfer learning, enable the transfer learning to basically show the general principle behind it. Okay, yeah, that's basically, that is valuable, and then that is likely
And
to
that's rarely being done. I agree.
yeah.
And so just I 100% agree with you. I think that the way that phishing simulations are done 99% of the time, the way that that follow-up training is done, all of it is counterintuitive to what we want to have happen. And there's been a lot of studies that have shown it, or demonstrated that, where they did phishing simulations, then they ran the hour-long security awareness training course, then they ran more simulations, and in almost every one of these you find that the users are exactly the same susceptibility before and after, or
Yeah.
sometimes they even get worse afterwards. So I agree, and I think that we have to do them right. And number one, tell the user you're going to fish them. Don't make it a game or a gotcha game, because that's not the goal of it. And number two, I think it should start off easier and gradually get more difficult as the user's proficiency gets better. And as to that follow-up training, um, I agree. I don't think that at the moment they make the mistake, you should send them through this 5 minute or 30-minute module, whatever it happens to be. I don't think that that's very effective. I also don't think you should ever exploit your users in phishing simulations that are done for security awareness. What I mean by that is, I don't care if they type in their username and password. They already clicked on a malicious link. The damage is done. I'm way better off making sure that they realize that they clicked and that it was a simulation and that they can move on, than I am to have them type out their password and go to some landing page. Because then you run the risk where this person truly believes whatever it is, I got a raise, I got a bonus. And I've seen these terrible ones that create these, just horrible experiences for the user. And so I'm right there with you. I think that the way most phishing is done is a very negative, sort of negative experience. And I think that just-in-time training, the way I've always done it is a simple email that lands in that user's inbox the second that they click, and it highlights the red flags and has arrows pointing at the red flags in the email, to do that transfer learning
Yeah.
at the moment of the mistake.
Okay. But I actually, one of the things I'm really concerned about is that I think we really need to, with the email phishing in particular, I think, what I see is a lot of companies could actually do more to just keep these attacks away from their users.
Yeah.
Specifically email phishing, right? But the amount of social engineering attacks that are being, that is massively increasing, but it comes through all sorts of channels, right? It comes, and even through, say, social media, basically social media sites, and actually really trying to get users to understand how the attackers operate, right? How they use open source intelligence, how these attacks are often multi-stage, and how the attackers are really trying to use, they want to make you believe that there is something that you want, how they use your emotions and so on. It's a
Yeah.
kind of like literacy that you need in the digital age, and that's really what we want to help users with, and that is, really valuable knowledge and valuable skills that help people in their personal lives just as much as they do, of course, because a lot of people fall for romance scams or investment scams and those kind of things, and actually really, by basically just explaining how social engineering attacks work and how they use you, how they play with your emotion, how they basically promise, or they dangle things in front of you that you would really like to have, or things that you
Yeah.
want to believe to be true. That kind of self-knowledge, and it leads to just a better literacy, and that kind of awareness, I think, is what we really want to give people, right?
Oh, yeah.
And
I don't think most people are aware of their own biases or their cognitive biases that are the
mm,
number one thing exploited by social engineering. And the more we can make them aware of them and conscious of them, the less likely they are to fall for it.
mm. And also to teach them basically ways of, of actually dealing with these
Yeah.
things. So,
So,
how, for instance, how to not get triggered, by basically about
yeah.
how to realize that somebody is trying, something is trying to trigger you. And sometimes all you need is just, to just basically really not react immediately, just
Yeah.
to actually defer the response. Don't, how to counteract pressure, and how to do it in a polite way, a friendly way. So, if you're not sure this is really a customer, who just is really bad tempered and is really thinks, but, or is this an attacker? Sometimes you're not sure. So, and we
Yeah.
see this, that people are really, that they don't get the right sort of response because they don't want to, they don't want to sort of like escalate the situation, right? They don't want to ruin a potential, a relationship that might be important or something like that. But we can teach them teach them how to handle those situations better.
Yeah.
And I've found, in when we do this, that actually employees are really, really grateful for that, and those experiences really increase the interest in
They do.
cybersecurity and security awareness and training, and actually then encourage, basically people take an interest, and they start to take work through some of these modules that we offer voluntarily,
Yeah.
because they've had an experience. This is actually useful, right? This is giving me useful knowledge and skills that help me, and I think that's really what we want, isn't it?
I completely agree. And to that, one of the things that I did about a year and a half ago now was I went back through all of my company's policies, and we also make them available to all of our clients too. But I went through all the templates and all of our internal stuff that we were utilizing, and I completely rewrote it. And it all starts with a single paragraph that basically says, "Hey, I understand that security awareness is part of my job, that it protects me at work, it protects my income, it protects me at home." And we connect all of it directly to their livelihood. And they sign that at the very top, and then all of the rest of the policy, as opposed to having these long policies that look like they're written by lawyers, we put it into bullet points for the most part. And every single policy is a page, and bullet points, one single page and bullet points, and it makes it easy for them to understand. And I think that there's a lot of stuff like that that just helps to drive it home. And one of the things that I like about policy is that um, Well, there's a commitment to bias that we all have, and if we sign our name to something saying that we'll do it, we're most people are going to try to do that because they want to make good on their word. But then we create these policies that no one can understand, or if they don't care to, they're not going to read anyway. Even if they could understand it, it's so long, they're not going to read it. And so as a result, we're not ever taking advantage of that commitment bias because people don't know what they signed and said they wouldn't do that was in the acceptable use policy or was in the
Mhm.
whatever policy, right?
You
Um,
know what I do as part of, I mean, I totally agree. And basically this kind of like, we want actually active, positive commitment, agreement to these things. And in the, because I said I prefer to do it over that basically you do one particular behavior at a time to re-embedding. But at the time when they basically actively say, yes, I want to, I agree this is important and I want to do it, then you start your little kind of like your little book of policies that you've committed to, and you can always, go back to it. It's like really, it should be sitting on your desktop. And you see like what you've committed to, and I like to really make it very, very sort of like very specific. Make not just the policy, but the specific behavior. What am I going to do to enact this policy, and then keep that as a little book, as a list, a reminder of the things you're doing, and as you go through the year and embed more and more of those behaviors, the list starts to you're acquiring more and more. But you can at any point in time go and look, what have I committed to, and am I doing it? And if I'm not doing it, what's actually stopping me doing this? And is this something where I need to do something, or have I really encountered some obstacles or blockers in enacting this secure behavior? In which case, I need to go and talk to the people in the security team and let's fix this. This is something we need to fix security together, the security experts and the employees. We can only do it by finding where sometimes there is too much friction, there is too much pain. There may be
yeah.
edge cases where the policy doesn't work, but we need to fix that together.
So I had a guest on the other day that I just found this part to be really interesting was that he surveyed his entire user population. He's a CISO. And he did it on a regular basis. What's your opinion of cybersecurity? Is there anything we can help you with to make your jobs easier? And it really was a lot focused heavily on those wants and desires so that the security team could proactively go and address those for team members and win over those allies within the company. And I just thought that that was a brilliant way of going about it because, I mean, to your point, this industry has spent far too long not worrying about what the users thought or how they think or how they learn or how they change or behavior changes or any of that. And so I think that that's why it's, an important element.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is really, we need to get away. So users are not the enemy. They are
Yeah.
they're part of the team. I like a sort of a metaphor is that it is a team sport, and different different stakeholders in the team have different responsibilities, but they need to be clear to everyone, and then we need to work together to help us. And if something isn't working, we need to talk about it. And I think that's also one of the things I always really want to see in an organization is that people talk to each other about security, even if they're
Yeah.
complaining. This is better than if you get into an organization and there's absolutely deafening silence, right? Nobody is talking about it. Then there's trouble, right?
Yeah.
There. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I've definitely been, I worked for the federal government for a while. I may have been one of those people complaining about the security. So, um, but I mean, I absolutely get it. Now, I'm curious what your opinion is because to me, there's a new, huge, just massive risk with end users, and it's AI. But it's not them pasting data in or whatever. And I mean, that's of course a risk, but I think we've done a good job of addressing that. The part that concerns me is AI writing code, not when my developers are using it inside a mature CI/CD pipeline, where it's going to assess security. It's going to have code evaluations, everything that's going to go through this whole intelligent process. But the code I'm worried about are the project managers, the sales, staff, whoever it happens to be, the finance team that don't understand technology to a point that they should be building out infrastructure or whatever. And all of a sudden, we've got shadow IT everywhere in the form of custom app development because everyone's a software developer now.
I couldn't agree more. And we have seen, I work in a really very big security research faculty, and we've already seen quite a few examples of users basically having code written by an LLM, and then starting to connect it to other bits, not understanding what it's doing, and yeah, the amount of data and the sensitivity of some of the data that is basically exposed by this is staggering.
Oh,
It's yeah,
great
it's
story on that. That my CTO that I work with for the parent company, and I still work as their CISO. He comes to me and he shows me this application that was developed by a project manager, and it's brilliant. I mean, it shows they're a logistics company, so it shows every single bit of inventory from warehousing to trucks to whatever you want to search, every single asset in the entire company. And it shows it, and I'm just like, okay, this is very impressive. But what about security? He seems to be connected to everything. But I mean, that is the new world that we're seeing everywhere, and it's happening so quick that security is not getting the opportunity to fully evaluate these things. What is do you have any recommendations for companies struggling with this? I know we're all sort of learning as we go right now, but what are your thoughts there?
well, maybe we need something similar to what we do with our students, right? Which is that we say if you use it, you need to declare that you've used it, right? So don't come and basically pretend you wrote this from scratch if you didn't, because of the risks that are involved in it. I mean, the other, as you said, if you maybe we need to, we just can't have code being put in like that. The reviews, the processes, it all would need to be. If people do it at home, that's one thing, but basically having code that they've generated and they're not really sure what it does, that if they don't know anything about security risks and so on, that just can't, you can't basically put that into production.
Well, it's not just the security risks, it's the architecture, the infrastructure
Right.
around it. And
Yeah.
that's the reason that it concerns me. It's also the models that they're using. I know my development team is only going to use approved models that they've been given access
Mm.
to. And so I'm a really big fan. In fact, I will go so far as to say that AI writes more secure code than humans.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
uh, in general, it does, and I say that I've spent a lot of my career in application security. I've looked at thousands of applications, and AI generally writes better code. But AI is not going to tell you if you left a bucket wide open on Amazon. AI is not going to tell you if you left default credentials on stuff. And to me, that's the part that really concerns me there.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
I, I really just think we have to be proactively giving our employees those capabilities and some sort of lab access so that we control it, because it seems that they're going to do it regardless of if we give them a safe place to do it in or not.
Mm. Okay. Yeah,
I don't know.
you could have a policy saying and you can't, you're not basically some people fancy themselves as medics, but you're not going to let them operate on patients. So I think you can I think but there's definitely a lot of rethink, I think there's new policies and new processes are going to be needed to
Yeah.
actually deal with to deal with this and tell people very clearly what they can and can't do. I
It's
mean,
an exciting time to be in cybersecurity. Scary, but exciting, because I mean it
scary.
is changing. I mean, I thought it was changing quickly 10 years ago. But it's really just evolving so quickly that uh, it's hard to keep up with just all of the technological innovations from a vendor perspective, from a technology perspective. It's like drinking from the fire hose 24/7.
Mm. Yeah, but maybe we also need to get back there for some applications, where you don't need anything fancy. Maybe you just want really simple, simple, secure components and building blocks that you can make simple things. Some things out of for the home, or so that might actually be a way forward.
Yeah,
That you can basically get secure components that you can combine in a
yeah,
way and put together as an end user, rather than go and have the whole code written from scratch by AI. I think for many applications, in the home context, or also for users who don't have super sophisticated requirements, who are just trying to have certain simple forms of automation and so on, that may be a better way forward.
yeah, yeah. Well, to that, I'm really surprised that Excel macros have not made a bigger comeback.
Well, actually, that was I think it may have been coincidence, but they this was one of the biggest triumphs of actually enacting the spirit of what I call human-centered security, because that they well, you can still have macros, right? But they have to be signed, meaning the
Yes.
experts in the company have to look at it. But I think what went on in the 10, 15 years before, that you asked users whether they wanted to enable a macro or not. And then there was like an absolutely lousy UI that actually effectively like cued them into enabling them. Right? And we published this study where we showed that even people who use IT for 6 hours a day, and used all these Microsoft things, that they enabled macros even if they didn't need them.
Yep.
And that really, out of that 95% of the people in our sample didn't really know what a macro was, and so how can and I think, I mean, for me it was really quite important that that this was one of the examples where you pushed sort of like the responsibility onto end users to decide something that really they shouldn't decide. And I think having only signed macros is the better way. And basically, frankly, the users are, of course, just absolutely happy not to basically have these click boxes being thrown into their face every 3 minutes,
Yeah.
right?
Well, and we saw with Java that it didn't work. Okay. I mean, I don't know if you remember at the very end before we finally got rid of Java, um, those those pop-ups were just bright red, the biggest bold letters you ever saw, and people would still click allow, allow, allow every single
Yeah.
time.
And it
Um,
doesn't worked. We've known this for. There's actually a really important book called "The Lunatics Are Running the Asylum" by a software engineer called Alan Cooper,
I have
who
not heard of it or
20
read it, but
years
I'm gonna have to check it out. I love the title. Sorry, go ahead. Tell me more.
he was, I mean, Alan Cooper is is a software engineer, but he really understood usability, and he said, basically, these pop-up boxes are an absolute scourge, and he said, you're abdicating responsibility and throwing something to the user that, almost certainly they can't decide. And he said, good software is self-confident and polite, and you're not abdicating responsibility and throwing it to the users. So I think he really pointed out 20 years ago. But I think I still remember. I think it was in about 2000 that at a big sort of tech conference, Bill Gates was actually asked by somebody about whether these whole boxes, whether they made them just pop up because they wanted to defer legal responsibility to the users, and he actually stood there for about 30 seconds. And then he said, yes. I think that tells you, this is like, I mean, from a usability point of view, those pop-up boxes were almost always a disaster. You look at them and then you just have created, we're back to the behavior thing. You create a habit of swatting things away, not reading, then the users don't read this anymore. And it's just not good design.
I mean, I'm a security professional and I have caught myself clicking through those things before. I mean, it's rare, but like I can't say that I've never just clicked and then thought, oh wait, what did I just click on? Because I have, and I highly doubt that I'm the only one. I may be the only one that'll admit it, but I highly doubt that I'm the only one. And so, no, I mean, it's you get so used to clicking through those things, and at least for me it's been my entire life. Now maybe we're finally re-engineering computers and younger people won't have that inherent just so click accept, but I still think they will because of things like the end user license agreements and all of that, that are 100 pages long and no one's ever going to read them, and so we sort of create this condition where people are just used to clicking through stuff. It is what it is. Okay, so we are running low on time here, and so I just wanted to, I guess, throw it to you as sort of a last question and just leave it sort of open-ended. What's the top bit of advice you have to security leaders listening to this podcast that want to improve their programs?
The top bit of advice is to actually do profile, profile your employee population by risk. Look at what are the top risks that those particular employee groups face, which are the relevant risks for them. And then start basically writing, just as you did, in simple terms, what behavior is required to to manage that risk, or to not basically enable an attack. And then we really advise to take a 1 to 2 year change management framework and prioritize, then work through those priority risks. And we borrow quite a lot from change management theory as well, such as actually rewarding people, celebrating. when
Change management is a huge part of
all employee
cybersecurity.
groups have reached their top 3, right? Then that's have really embedded their top 3 security behaviors. Sort of celebrating that. And it's really, I think, the thing that I very often that I think for leaders in bigger organizations, I find that a lot of them don't understand that they can't just abdicate it to the experts, right? The experts have knowledge, they know how to manage some of those threats, but to really embed that in the hearts and minds of the organization and in the behavior of the workforce, you need this program. You need to make a plan, and you need to find it's the organizational leader's job to find the capability and the capacity in the organization in various, whether this is in HR, whether this is in training. You can learn an awful lot if you've got a workplace safety program. The people who set up those and run those have an awful lot of experience already. The comms, the internal comms department, they know how to what kind of frequency of messaging works. They know how to formulate them. So you need to bring those things together, and that's why I said it's a team sport. But the leaders of the organization have to set those goals, and they have to bring the people together and tell them what they want them to achieve when it comes to security.
I couldn't agree more. In fact, I'll echo it with this one quick story. So for the longest time, the whole industry was security is everyone's responsibility. And then all of a sudden, some marketing people got involved and they changed it from everyone's to security is your responsibility. And while it's only a one word change, it makes a world of difference. And that, to me, is the reason, we should be including the other departments, communications, marketing. They can help us craft our message and make sure it sticks.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Absolutely. I agree,
Well,
Joshua.
well, thank you for joining me today. It's been a fabulous episode. And, well, we'll be back again next week.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.